if we haven't met before, I am Sam, the proud owner of Plant Collector Melbourne, and today we find ourselves in the Royal Botanical Gardens in Victoria, where we have been oh so graciously invited to take an exclusive tour here at the gardens and also look at the herbarium, which is what I like to call the plant library, the plant historical museum. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we are on our way to the herbarium, which is super exciting. I don't think I've ever seen it. So I've been to the Botanical Gardens multiple times, but mostly just for picnics and hanging out, and not really all of the sightseeing, the highlights, the buildings, all of that jazz. So this is the first time for me, and it's probably the first time for you. So let's do this together, shall we? Going to the herbarium, I found something oh so cool that I feel like I have to share with you guys, and it is this tree. It is a coxcomb coral tree, and I'm guessing the coral part is definitely because of the tree itself. I think this is absolutely splendid. Like, it doesn't look real. Oh, so this is what it looks like. Oh my gosh, so cool. I don't know what I was expecting. I thought it was gonna be like a super old building. That's why I'm so keen. Did you hear that, guys? They don't allow this in the public. How special. We're locked outside. Thanks. Sure am. Thank you.
You know, and Eugene are our professional tour guides, as you'll gather, which is curators who work with the material. So yeah, this is really kind of a behind the scenes look view that most people don't get to do. Lots of rows of cupboards stacked with specimens. 1.5 million specimens takes a lot of keeping, so there's a lot of storage space. I've got some example specimens out to show you around here.
Our Victorian herbarium holds more than 1.5 million species. It is a scientific collection of preserved plants, algae, and fungi. Specimens provide a snapshot in time of species structure, geographic location, and other important information vital for scientists. So why is it so important for our world? By documenting species, scientists are able to provide insight on identification, conservation, monitor environmental change, and support agriculture and medicine. This building holds so much more than just preserved plants. It holds the past, present, and insight to our future. Am I allowed to open? Oh. So that's how they keep the specimens. In folders. Who would have thought? I want to know where the aroids are. I want to know where are my anthurium, where are my philodendron. I want to see. So my friends, we just finished at the herbarium, which was so wild. I didn't think that that's how they kept specimens. It's a bit like old school and yeah, super, super old plant material. Let me introduce to you Andrew Laidlaw and Tim Ubergang, who generously gave us their time and shared knowledge in their expertise for the tour. They told the stories behind the intention of the gardens and special people involved. Andrew is the landscape architect at the gardens, responsible for the design and implementation of projects. Tim is the garden's managing horticulturist, and fun fact, he has a soft spot for cycads. Their wisdom and expertise spent over several decades, and it was very evident that they still have a deep passion for plants and the gardens.
landscape it's a colonial landscape, and it was started in 1846, and it's 86 acres, and it's an amazing green space right in the heart of a big, expanding urban heat bank, if you like. So this green space is incredibly important for people and their health and well-being. This beautiful old tree, 165-year-old oak tree, basically fell apart 3 or 4 years ago, and so it started to fall apart. We put a fence around it, and the whole thing then fell apart in 3 days later. And it was an awesome thing, actually, and it felt like, you know, it was so massive and so big. And if you have a look at the canopy around here, that's how big this tree was. It touched every other tree right over to there. It was massive. And this is the white oak meeting place. And we're shrouded in indigenous plants. So a lot of these grasses are all the indigenous plants that would have been here thousands of years ago. So that's kind of connecting to the deeper history, and then allowing the story of this tree to continue as a gift to people that now come here and meet under this tree.
And although the tree's gone, the fungi is still underground, and although this wasn't what we wouldn't consider to be a climate suitable tree now, the 3 oaks that are around here are climate suitable, and it's the underground fungi and that soil biota which will actually connect with these new trees which are climate suitable. So in the next 150 years, until they reach this size, this tree will still provide and service these trees.
I want to test out the tree. Oh yeah, that's a good tree. And apparently, the individual that made these seeds used a Japanese technique, no nails, which I think is really cool. How many branches are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. Would you look at the texture of this thing?
But in a way, that's okay because this tree might be gone.
It makes me wonder how loud that crack was when it all fell. Hey guys, can we get this? So this is like the joinery that they're talking about, and that he used no nails, carved, shaped, did his artistry, and then put it all together, making sure that people could sit on it, which I think is so cool. And apparently the meeting place tree was bigger than these trees, which makes me think that thing must have been huge.
What's unique about Melbourne Botanic Gardens? Unique in the world. Most botanic gardens, a director turns up and does a bit there, and another one does a bit there, and they stuff the whole thing up, basically. So what Guilfoyle did is he designed this whole garden, and the lawns all connect, all the garden beds connect, because it's one garden, and it's 86 acres of one garden. And that is made up of a relationship between the mass and the void. The void are the lawns, the paths, and the lakes. They're the open bits, and the mass is all the planting. So he designed this garden so you would walk through a mass, but there's a mass there of all that planting, and when you get to the end of that mass, it opens up into a void space, and you are presented with a different view.
Cool.
So this garden can be seen as a whole series of mass and voids. You just move through the lawns, which are all connected, and they'll narrow off into these shrubby mass areas where you can't see anything, and then they open up into these beautiful vistas. And that's how he designed that garden. This has all been orchestrated by a designer, which is pretty impressive. And he held that design for 30 years. So while he was working on a piece over there, and people were whinging and carrying on, and there's lots of letters being sent, what in the hell's going on here? He in his head was connecting that to something that was going on 5 acres away, because it all ends up flowing together, which is pretty impressive.
So this, my friends, is apparently a Dracaena. And I think, 1, it's massive, and 2, that the colors are so beautiful. It's like a bluey green and purples. But let's talk about this huge elephant in the room. This huge flower. What the heck? How many sands do you think that flower is? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe like 5 sands. It is massive. And apparently at the very top where the flowers are, that will die in maybe about a year, if not less. And pups might be at the top or the bottom of the plant, which I think would look so strange, but spectacular. So this apparently came from an individual's collection, which is cool. And then we have the bamboo forest. Shall we go along? This reminds me of Japan.
What it is it's sort of fine branch-like structures on these leaves which stop it from the water, keeps the water collecting, and it becomes a self-cleaning agent as well.
So there's like little hairs, Tim?
Yeah, like branch-like, very fine hairs. But you know, they talk about it as being something self-cleaning for aeroplanes and cars. So you don't need to wash them; they self-clean.
Yeah.
But,
So cool.
I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't know how could you not love it.
The fabric on.
Oh, I just got most of it out. Oh,
So cool.
oh, she's out. Oh, she's out. So cool.
Then what we did a couple of years later is we took people off the main boardwalk and we created a series of 3 meditation gardens. And these gardens were sponsored by individuals, and we get a lot of philanthropy through here. And we created 3 gardens which were about people's loss, actually. So the first garden, a gentleman had lost his wife and his daughter in the 1 year. The second garden was about someone that lost their dear sister, and they had this wonderful relationship about birds. And the third person, she'd lost her husband and he loved the rocks off their property. So we were able to, through a design process, actually capture those stories in the gardens. And we actually have created these meditation gardens, and then it goes to that immersive experience again. So you can always walk through the fern gully, but now you can actually sit in the fern gully, and we hope you can connect to yourself through your connection to nature now in some of these garden spaces. So we're going to walk through these.
It is actually cold here. There is like a significant temperature drop in here, and it feels like we're not in Melbourne. It feels like we're in the tropics, but it's cold. I wish I brought my book and a pillow. So apparently this is for like lovers, and like 2 people would sit here, but I don't think I need anyone here. I reckon I could just be here by myself. This is nice. Can you guys hear the water? So zen.
And he was a German plant collector. And he went on this amazing trip into South
We're in the desert
America.
now.
There was a guy called Ralph.
I want to sniff the flower. And now we are here at the arid, I guess, the warmer, the hotter climate. And here we have the volcano. And the designer was explaining how the plants that they managed to put down in any of the spaces are always uneven. And they were saying that in nature, mostly that you see things uneven, or that if there are only two of them or pairs of them, you're always looking for something else for symmetry. So that was a cool fact, and that I've always really loved too, is uneven numbers when you're styling or plant designing. In all my 28 years in Melbourne, I visited the gardens a handful of times. By going on this tour, it opened my eyes to the beauty and awe that sits at my doorstep. Just how curated and spectacular each garden is. I never even knew it existed. So my friends, if you ever find yourself in Melbourne, I'd wholeheartedly invite you to visit and explore the Royal Botanical Gardens. See the volcano in the Arid Garden, sit on the lover's seat in the Fern Gully, or go through the bamboo in the Sensory Garden. I promise you won't be disappointed. So that pretty much wraps up this week's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the walk around, all the storytelling and all the people that are involved in these beautiful gardens. A very special thank you to the crew at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Victoria, as well as our cameraman and videographer Ez, that will be doing all the editing and the good stuff for you guys. Thank you so much, and let's make sure to chat in the comments. Let me know what your favorite part of today's video is. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!